So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining Alderman Kovac's community meeting to discuss the proposed rezoning and development at 1132 through 1164 East North Avenue. We will wait just a few minutes to allow everyone to join the meeting. So thank you again for joining us this evening for Alderman Kovac's community meeting to discuss the proposed rezoning and development of 1132 through 1164 East North Avenue. I am Amanda Cervantes, Legislative Assistant for Alderman Nik Kovac. I'd like to briefly go over the format and functions for tonight's meeting. All attendees are in listening only mode right now, and your microphones are muted. You will be able to participate tonight by typing any questions or comments into the questions box on your screen. We will be monitoring these as they come in, and they will be addressed in the question and answer portion of the meeting following a presentation by the applicants. You will also have the opportunity to use the raise your hand function to speak. Just click on the hand icon and I will unmute your microphone and announce your name. I'd also like to note that this meeting is being recorded. At this point, I will turn the meeting over to Alderman Kovac and he will introduce the individuals presenting this evening.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you to everyone who has attended this meeting. I'm looking at the list of attendees. There's a good turnout. Some of you are veterans of this process, but some of you are maybe have not attended one of these meetings before. So I'll give you a brief introduction to what we're hoping to achieve tonight. This is a significant proposal on a lot that has been vacant except for a billboard for quite a long time. There's a lot of history with this lot. It was actually got an approved development several years ago. At the time, we did not issue a general RFP because there was a private landowner that owns a corner of the lot. That went through a similar community process to this. Some of you may remember that from many years ago. That developer never pulled the trigger, pulled off that project, and then we eventually decided to open up the city portion of the land to lots of developers and offer them the chance to buy out the private developer's corner, which is essentially the proposal you have before you. This development team of KG Development and General Capital won the RFP, has bought out the other corner, and they have a proposal to share with you. Anytime there is a zoning change of this significance, we like to have a night meeting like this in advance of the formal daytime meetings that occur at City Hall. If it wasn't for the COVID pandemic, we'd be doing it in person at a location near the site. But because of COVID, we're doing it this way. So it's meant to feel more informal. Obviously, doing it by Zoom makes it feel a bit more formal, and obviously it's being recorded. That's for the benefit of people who aren't able to attend. But we are going to, this is not just a zoning change, it is also a city land sale, and there's even a third significant approval this project will need if it's going to go forward, and that is TIF financing, specifically targeting normally we don't do tax incremental financing, which essentially is a reduction in their long-term property tax bill. We don't normally do that on the east side for market rate projects, but we have begun a new program, partly because Mayor Barrett before him now and Mayor Johnson has continued this approach of wanting to increase the number of affordable housing units throughout the city of Milwaukee, and especially in areas where it's underserved, where affordable housing is not as available. And so there is a program which we will go into more detail to explain to you as part of the presentation, that program. But this project would need zoning approval, city land sale approval, and tax incremental financing approval. All three of those things are on the table. This is a chance for you to ask questions about those parts of the development, the design of the building, the traffic flow, the parking, how the building will be managed, who the tenants are going to be, the city policy on this. All of that is here. I'm here. Obviously, Amanda Cervantes from my office is here. We also have Matt Hazley, Sam Leckling, and Kristen Connolly from the Department of City Development that will be answering questions. Matt will be actually doing part of the presentation. And then from DPW, Dawn Schmidt is here, the Department of Public Works. So I think, I don't know if I'm leaving out, I should, and Maria Prioletta is also here from the Department of City Development. She'll be explaining the tax incremental financing aspect. I'm not going to introduce the developers, and the architects are also here. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I will turn it over now for a presentation that won't be too long. It'll probably be 20 or 30 minutes of a presentation, and then the bulk of the meeting will be for questions, which you can either type it in the chat and we'll read them aloud for you, or you can raise your hand and we'll call on you, or both. Sometimes we read your question and we don't understand it, and then you raise your hand and explain it verbally. We'll make that work. We'll try to do them roughly in the order they're received. We may do a little bit of trying to make similar questions mushed together around the same time. But for the most part, like I said, this is informal. You can virtually raise your hand as if we were all in a room together. So with no further ado, then I will turn it over to Sig Stradmanis and Anthony Kazee. Sig is representing General Capital, and Anthony Kazee is representing KG Development. So take it away, please.
Thanks, Alderman Kovac. To start things off, we'll ask Matt Hazley to give a little bit of background from the city perspective, kind of where this project started, and then we'll take over and talk about our project in a couple minutes.
Thank you, Sig. Thank you, Alderman Kovac, for the lovely introduction. Slide one, please, Sig. Thank you. The project site for this proposed development encompasses a city-owned and 2 privately owned parcels. The project site is located at the northwest corner of East North Avenue and North Commerce Street. Slide. The city owns parcel A, highlighted in yellow. It's a vacant lot at 113646 East North Avenue. The property was a Department of Public Works facility that the city declared surplus. On either side of parcel A are 2 privately owned parcels known as 1132 East North Avenue, parcel C, and 1164 East North Avenue, parcel B. Parcel B also has the freestanding 2-sided static billboard. Slide. Well, as Sig moves the next slide. In 2020, thank you, DCD marketed the parcel A with a request for proposal. In the request for proposal, we made a general reference to the 2 privately owned properties, parcel B and parcel C. DCD, which is Department of City Development, provided the private property information gathered from the city assessor's website. So even though the city parcel is developable by itself, we referenced the 2 adjacent privately owned parcels just in case a developer wanted to consider a larger developable site. A negotiation between the developer and the privately owned property owner was at the developer's sole discretion. In addition, any developer interested in parcel B would also need a plan of action of how to handle the two-sided static billboard. The Department of City Development received 6 submittals, all before the due date, which was May 15th, 2020. The submittals were reviewed, and KG Development and General Capital were selected. Slide. The project site was previously zoned detailed plan development, which is a custom site-specific zoning. A zoning change to a new DPD, detailed plan development, is necessary to allow what is being proposed tonight. The process entails public hearings before the City Plan Commission, as well as the Zoning, Neighborhoods and Development Committee, followed by the Common Council approval. DCD planning staff are here to answer questions, as Alderman Kovac mentioned earlier. After the presentation, at this point, I would like to allow KG Development and General Capital Group and their team to share their vision for this property.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, City of Milwaukee, for hosting this webinar this evening. I'd also like to thank the Riverwest community for taking time out this evening to discuss our development concept. Here, what you see in front of you is a 91-unit mixed-use development. That's a combination of market rate units and affordable units. We also have a community garden, and as well as a Riverwest food accelerator, which we're very excited to bring to this neighborhood and look forward to discussing more in detail later in the presentation. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here's a slide to show our team members of the development team. Here we have General Capital, who's our development partner, and also has been a great mentor to KG Development Group, who is an emerging developer through the ACRE program. We also have Enberg Anderson, who serves as our design architects, the Sigmund Group, who's our environmental engineer, as well as our civil engineer. And cannot do this without the City of Milwaukee and WIDA. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here's a slide to show a timeline of how this project, began and kind of where we are now. So as Matt alluded, the request for proposal was released back in spring of 2020. We applied in the spring of 2020 and were awarded the project in the fall of 2020. We applied for tax credits in December of 2020 and was awarded tax credits in April of 2021. At that time, we were impacted by the pandemic, as everyone else were impacted as well. At that time, we worked to figure out the financial feasibility due to the pandemic. And a year later, here we are, where the project seems to be gaining a lot of attraction. Today, we actually attended a press conference at City Hall. The project was awarded a neighborhood investment grant through the Department of Administration. So as we seek to move this project forward, and like I said, the project is gaining a lot of traction and confidence, we want to make sure that we discuss with the Riverwest community where we are, and want to really attend design feedback from the Riverwest community as we look to move this project forward. Next slide, please. Thank you, Sid. And here I will pass this off to our team member, Jackson, with General Capital Group.
Hey, thanks, Anthony, and good evening, everyone. I'm Jackson Lindsay with General Capital Group. I'm going to be walking through some of the details of the project and some of the imagery of our proposed development. As Anthony said, we've got 91 apartment units here. The majority are affordable. We will be discussing more about what affordable means in a few slides. We'll have some market rate in a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, with the 3 bedroom units being direct entry 2-story townhome units, which are really exciting. Community amenities, everything you'd expect in a modern apartment building: on-site management and maintenance, fitness room, community room, secure bike storage, underground and surface parking. Anchored, which is really exciting, it's the Riverwest Food Accelerator, which we'll also have more slides about, but really aiming to gain a community resource with the project. And also sustainable design through the Accelerator program will be getting Greenbelt Home certification, 200 points, which is a pretty robust certification of sustainable features, energy efficiency, along with we're looking at a lot of really interesting stormwater management strategies. Next slide, please. Here you can see the proposed current site plan, and to what Matt alluded to with the 3 different parcels, is really important to get the 3 parcels to work together to create an impactful project. Here we'd have, I just want to point out on Commerce Street would be the main entrance to the residence and the underground parking. So a lot of the traffic would be coming to the dead end of Commerce Street. The surface parking would be accessed from North Avenue. And also adjacent to that surface parking, there's some little red arrows you can see that are kind of indicating those direct entry townhome units. There are also a few direct entries off of North Avenue. And then on the corner of Commerce and North Avenue would be our main community space and demonstration kitchen. I also want to point out right now, we do not propose any connections to Walworth or Stanley Place at this time. Next slide, please. Here are just some schematic floor plans, and really I just wanted to point out here that the underground parking is below with the bike storage room and also kind of the main lobby entrance. And then the residential floors above are going to encompass the apartments along with various community spaces. The community spaces here, if you can see them, are just shaded in yellow, with the largest one being the demonstration kitchen. Next slide, please. And here you have really the vision of the project. This is looking at the corner of North and Commerce Street at our main jewel of the Riverwest Food Accelerator and our main community space. We're able to utilize the grade change going west on North Ave to be able to allow that space to be a larger space, much taller, a lot of glass, a lot of visibility, a really good opportunity to showcase it as people travel down North Avenue. You can also see, some architectural features, including, some water management plans along with balconies and large windows for the units. Next slide, please. This is another view. This is really looking at the Commerce Street elevation. So we've got the community space and food accelerator on the left with a really nice plaza out front. You can see a little bit more of what we're trying to do with stormwater management off of the building, utilize that in native plantings along with the community gardens. Further to the right, you can see the signage underneath that would be a 2-story, the residential entry. And then beyond that would be the entrance to the underground parking. Next slide, please. We're going down Commerce Street, looking back at the corner of North and Commerce. Here we've got some of the garden plots for the residents and for the food accelerator as educational tool as well as a nutritional tool, along with some of the stormwater management features. Next slide. This showcases kind of the materials that we've chosen, which create a really interesting palette for the project. Masonry, mainly used at the base of the building, along with a few other materials at the upper levels, metal panel, composite Euro siding, along with engineered bamboo product, which is really interesting, just to show the variety of materials and colors that we'd be putting in on this project. Next slide, and I think now we'll be moving into some of the imagery of the interiors of the project, just to give a flavor of what we're imagining inside. This would be the 2-story residential lobby. So this is where the residents and visitors would enter, pick up their mail and packages. There's a mezzanine space. Sig, you can just keep rolling through these. and we'll walk through the building a little bit. This is another view of that lobby space. Our on-site management is through the door right in front of us. We think it's really important to have on-site management and maintenance. That's a great amenity. We can keep going.
In my apology, there's a little bit of a lag, so patience. It just every slide is taking a little longer. Sorry.
I just figured you were slow. This is the upstairs amenity space, and really this is just to showcase kind of what the materiality of the common areas would be. And there's a variety of communal spaces. This is a sample unit interior. I just want to point out, solid wood cabinetry, large patio windows for the units that would have the patios, luxury vinyl plank flooring in the living room and bathroom, carpeting in the bedrooms, stainless steel appliances, including a dishwasher. And I think after this slide, I'm going to send it back to Sig, and he's going to talk a little bit more about what a food accelerator is, and also a little bit more about what affordable housing is. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jackson. So when we first proposed this to the city through the RFP process, we were looking for an angle on this project that would take it beyond just being a typical apartment building on North Avenue. And part of our research looked at really health outcomes, access to food, and how that impacts poverty and housing. And so one of the things that we found is that there is a lack potentially of food education opportunities, and also opportunities for a demonstration kitchen where people can take classes, things like that. Not only our residents, but the neighborhood. And so that's really where the idea came from. The idea of this Riverwest Food Accelerator, which is basically going to be our anchor space on the corner of Commerce and North. That'll basically be a combination of community space for our residents when it's not in use as a demonstration kitchen, and then also working with some partners to do a really high-tech demonstration / teaching kitchen area that could host classes, that could also be a feeder for some of the culinary arts programs in the city. So it's intended to be something that goes beyond just our residents, and is supposed to be really very much focused on Riverwest, the neighborhood, and also just connecting kind of the east side to Riverwest, and being just this nice the community amenity that will go beyond just our project itself. And we worked hard to reach out to some partners in the neighborhood, and really importantly, we don't want this to be something that's duplicating efforts of a lot of the great nonprofits that are in Riverwest, but we really want it to be a satellite facility that we could, again, have a high visibility location for some of these programs. We've been talking to Milwaukee Food School and METC, Teens Grow Greens, potentially having some opportunities from some internships at the gardens, and again, really just focusing on the outcomes, positive health outcomes that come with food education and access to healthy food. So a couple of shots as they come up here slowly of the interior of the food accelerator. This is going to be a very transparent, all glass space, a lot of stainless steel appliances, rolling tables, things like that. And the appliances will be behind the garage door, so it'll be safe for our residents when the kitchen isn't in use. And last shot of the accelerator here, working with Engberg Anderson to really fine tune and dial in the vibe of the space, kind of a techie vibe. Again, very visible from the street. So we're excited about that. And then the last thing that we wanted to talk about in our presentation tonight is just the idea of affordable housing and workforce housing, and what that program is really about. Many are probably very familiar with this, but we're participating in the Section 42 Housing Tax Credit Program. And really the foundation of this is private tax credit equity that comes from big institutional investors. And what's important here to differentiate this from what you consider low-income housing or Section 8 housing is that our residents are paying their own rent. And basically the subsidy, if you will, comes with the tax credits to buy down the cost of the project on the front end, but then once it's stabilized, all residents are paying their own rent, and it functions very much as a kind of a market rate property. There is a range of income qualification kind of units available in our project, including market rate units, and I'll talk about that in some specificity in a second. And the last piece about the nature of this project is that we've had experience with these projects in other neighborhoods, they're very neighborhood centric. We found that they're really very locally serving. Most of the residents are coming from the immediate zip code where they're located, or just immediately next to it. So basically, with a project in Hyde House in Bayview, that had that very similar experience. Where the majority of the residents are coming right from the neighborhoods, right from the neighborhood nearby. This next slide shows the current income limits of Milwaukee County. This is current right now. And so we have a combination variety of units, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60% AMI, which is area median income. And for family with a couple of children, that could reach up to $50,000 as an income limit. And of course, the market rate units have no income limits associated with them. And then specific to the project, this shows the types of units that we have in our project. There's 91 units total. And you'll see that there's 7 market rate 1 bedrooms and 7 market rate 2 bedrooms, and the rest of the units will be affordable. You can see the rent range here, ranging from $400 something for 30% unit, all the way up to a market rate unit bedroom, which you see in the neighborhood for $1,700. So really a wide range, which is really what we're after is kind of the middle market as a target demographic for our property. And we'll close our presentation just talking about the impact of a project like this, and our project specifically. This is a huge investment, $25+ million. And there's been studies shown about the immediate construction impacts, positive job impacts from the construction, and also the ongoing impacts from the direct and indirect spending that comes with a property like this. And so this is, there's going to be immediate impact, and there's also a long-term impact that's very positive. And given kind of the vacant nature of this property now, we really feel great about this as a positive impact on the neighborhood. And we're really excited about this food accelerator and evolving the programming with that. And we're really interested in hearing from the neighborhood as far as what ideas we can bring to the table to make that a great space for everyone, including our residents and the surrounding neighborhood. So with that, what I'd like to do is turn it back to Alderman Kovac. And if you have any questions, we have a bunch of people from our team that can answer questions, specific technical questions or programmatic questions about our project. So thanks for hearing us tonight.
Thank you, Sig. And there is one question already. Feel free to type in more. I also maybe should have made this more clear in the introduction. We are going to do a straw poll at the end. We call it that. It's actually easy to do the poll online. If we were in person, I would just ask people to raise their hands, in which I'll ask everyone whether you yes, no, or maybe. Yes, full speed ahead, you love the project. No, don't even think about it, start over. Or maybe, yes with conditions. And then if you vote maybe, we'll want to know what those conditions are. But chances are those potential conditions might come out in the questions. But it's a straw poll. It's not like if it wins or loses tonight, the decision's made. The decision will be made at a series of meetings where it goes to the Public Works Committee for the land sale, the Zoning Committee for the zoning change, and the Finance Personnel Committee for the tax increment financing. So it'll actually go to 3 separate council committees, and then the full council will eventually have to vote on all 3. That would be the time, if you have a strong opinion, yes or no, about this project, between this meeting and those future meetings, email me, register for those meetings, attend those meetings. Those are the formal meetings where actual decisions are made by council committees. This, like I said, is a chance to get to know the project, ask questions, and let your voice be heard, your initial reactions as residents. So our first question is from Montavious Jones. Is there an operator identified for the food accelerator?
Sure, I can answer that. And actually, I'll ask, I'll kind of MC the questions, Alderman Kovac, and then I'll ask, people from our team to chime in as necessary. But basically, we've been talking to several organizations who are interested in using the space. Right now, we are going to manage the space as part of our property management. In Oak Brook, or sorry, it's not Oak Brook, it's Team Management is our manager on this property. And so we're seeking is actually a role out there from an organization that would actually, that could manage a space full time for us and really make it, you know, much more kind of 24/7 use. And so we're still involved in those discussions. But basically, right now we're having discussions with several organizations who express some interest in using the space, but we're going to be managing it for the time being.
The next question is from Amber Hagan. How will the traffic increase be managed at that intersection? I don't know if she's referring to North and Commerce or North and Humboldt. Maybe try to answer both. Your team, and also we have Dawn Schmidt and James Washington has joined us. We have two representatives from the city's Department of Public Works who can also answer that question. It's about traffic increase. How will it be managed?
Yep. What I can discuss is how traffic flows, and then maybe the folks from DPW can just talk about, you know, kind of capacities on the road network. But basically, there's 2 points where traffic's going to enter our site. One is off of Commerce, which is basically the main intersection, and all of the underground parking is accessed off of Commerce on the north side of our building. And then we have our surface parking that's tucked behind our building that'll be accessed off of North Avenue. And right now, that is envisioned as a right in, right out. And we're looking at, you know, we'd love to have more turning movements coming in and out of that driveway, but right now it's limited to a right in, right out. And so that helps a lot with kind of calming traffic and avoiding any conflicts with those intersections. I don't know if Dawn or DPW has any additional kind of background on that, or James.
I think you pretty much covered it. Yeah, we did have a look at those access points. We are studying the traffic flows that are going to be impacted by having the development. We don't have any grave concerns, we meaning the DPW traffic engineering section. So if there's a specific question or concern, you can feel free to ask us, but I think we pretty much covered most of the general traffic impacts.
The next question is from Dave Loken. Why so much surface parking relative to the parcel's footprint? Disappointing to see a huge surface lot. Other than that, this is a great project.
No, we appreciate that. So here, this site is really super challenging. And part of the challenge, Alderman, and to the person asking the question, is that there's a lot of topo change. There's also a huge retaining wall behind the building. And we talked that little bit of surface parking.
While you're doing that, someone did ask if you could put up the site map while you're describing it. So can you do that?
Bear with me.
And just so you know, at least on my computer, you're a little bit choppy, Sig. I can pretty much hear everything you're saying, but you're just a little choppy. It might just be bad internet. I don't know. But now I can see the, but I think what they want to see is the site plan that would show the surface parking lot. Yeah, that.
That one.
Yeah.
I apologize, you know, internet, you know, as always. So what I can say here is that this back area, all of this white line here is a really large retaining wall. And originally we had a larger parking deck with more, you know, kind of a larger building set in here, but this became really dicey back here. And so our engineers suggest that we stay well off this back retaining wall. And that's really how this plan came to be. And so we felt that it was important to hold the corner here at Commerce and North with the building, and then really just tuck the surface parking, the limited surface parking, like something like less than 38 spaces in the back. And that's kind of how that transpired, is really the technical challenge of the site itself.
While you have that still up, Tim Salmon, who's the one who wanted the site map up. Thank you for that note, Tim. That was a good note. I think it's helpful to have the site map up while this is being discussed. What is being done to prevent pedestrian entry to Walworth and Stanley?
Pedestrian entry, I guess I'd like to understand, to clarify that, because
Well, Well,
The
Sig,
city-
I'll just say that right now, the retaining wall that Sig mentioned is being retained. And
Yeah.
I also, we don't have any connections up to Walworth or Stanley in this design. If somebody wants to climb through the forest there, that's up to them, but we don't have any connection, pedestrian or vehicular, to Walworth or Stanley at this time.
Well, you are across the street from Adventure Rock, so I don't know if you'll have climbers.
We may very well.
But I know
We'll
this has
have
come up. Somebody also called my office and said that they were hoping, a lot of people who live on Stanley and Walworth, I think primarily for parking reasons, don't want it to be real easy to walk from one to the other. Frankly, from an urban planning perspective, the more pedestrian connections, the better. But I do understand there's a number of neighbors who do not want that. They had made that clear in the other iterations at this site. And at least a couple of people tonight or today and tonight have reiterated that. And as a practical matter, given the height of this retaining wall, it's anticipated that there will not be pedestrian connections, correct?
That's correct.
There's a comment here from Eileen Teska, who had to leave. She thinks it's a wonderful project. She likes the outreach to nonprofit partners. She can't stay. She has another meeting. I think we've gotten through does anyone have their hand up, or is anyone typing further questions?
Yes, we have one hand raised from Montavious Jones. I'm going to unmute your microphone now. So you might have to hit the microphone on your end as well here in order to speak.
Yep, I am good to go.
Yes, we can hear you.
Everybody. I feel like Alderman Kovac. I'm on 2 virtual meetings right now. I got to be in the Southside Area Plan meeting right now at the same time as this one. But I think the project is great. Very happy to see affordable housing in the area. Very happy to see Anthony on the project as well. We definitely need more Black developers in Milwaukee, and especially on the east side. So happy to see you here. And so I have 2 comments. One, the East Side Library is 99 units, and they don't have a parking problem or a traffic problem. So I don't think this will be a traffic or parking problem either, given that, you know, the East Side hasn't collapsed or North Avenue has not collapsed, given that they have 99 units. So cars are coming in and out just fine over there. I'm sure it'll be just fine here as well. Second question, my question is about the walk-up units that face North Avenue. My question is like, is there a way that one, if we can't, you know, only access it from the interior, because I'm worried about, you know, losing the street edge and having, you know, kind of what looks to be, you know, very small windows and kind of a blank wall fill along North Avenue. It'll make it a awkward walking environment. If one, we can make those units, you know, bigger windows on the first floor, or solely accessed from the inside. It looks like there's an interior hallway that can also access those units. So my question or concern is really keeping the urban street edge along North Avenue.
We appreciate that. I don't know if Mark or Jackson, you want to comment on that, but we're, you know, part of this, let me chime in this, that I think, you know, the idea was to activate North Avenue with those direct entries as well. So actually to kind of introduce more pedestrian activity, and those direct entries would hopefully promote more street life on North. So that was kind of the direction of that. I don't know, Mark or Jackson, have any more?
I'll just add that people love those kind of units because they can access, particularly people with dogs. They love those kind of spaces, and I think we like doing them. Those units become very popular for certain kinds of people and the way they live. But we really wanted that access to the street, and Alderman Kovac kind of inspired us to explore it more. There's a lot of topography on that street. We'd have a couple more probably if it weren't for the kind of the grade change there.
Yeah, as Mark alluded to, I did push them to have as many front doors facing North Avenue as possible. Because of the way the site worked out, they have a lot of doors facing the surface parking, which I thought was better to have the doors actually facing the main street. And they agreed, but they had some topography challenges. And this is actually, this is just west of the river, so it's outside the boundaries of the East North Avenue Architectural Review Board. But so I think a lot of those principles, and Mark, the architect, is familiar with those, what those principles are. And so a lot of those same principles, the DCD team that reviewed these design and myself pushed them to have as many entrances facing the main street as possible, and looked at some other details of construction, which by no means is it a final review. That's why we're continuing to have this meeting. But we did already, myself and the plan design review team at DCD has already met a few times with the architect and the developer about some of these details that Montavious brought up. And for the record, Montavious, I'm in one meeting tonight. I'm not double booked tonight, and I was mostly in pension board the other day, but I did sneak away for 2 minutes to talk at the zoning meeting while I was at pension board. But Jeremy Janine reported that, so now the whole world knows I sometimes do 2 meetings at once. But I try not to, because it's hard to concentrate, obviously. I assume that's what that reference was to, Montavious.
Yes, and yes, Jeremy Janine, that was just a very unnecessary mention in his article to mention that you were in 2 meetings. I thought that was funny.
Well, I did admit it. I admitted it. So I said it in public, and he reported. He does good work. There we have a few more questions coming in. Tim Salmon wants to know when. Well, he says project looks great, glad to support it, and he wants to know when would you expect construction to start?
We would hope to get construction going early summer, late spring, early summer. We have a little ways to go here to wrap up all of our approvals and to get through permitting and such, and financing, obviously. So, early summer construction starts our target.
Tori Kress says it looks like a great project. Crossing North Avenue at Commerce Street on either bike or foot is a challenge. Any chance for bump outs or other street design changes to help slow traffic on North Avenue, especially with increased traffic generated from the new project? I'll begin answering this one, Tori, and then hopefully James and the developers can weigh in too. As you know, we did narrow or put the bridge on a road diet. In a temporary, I maybe shouldn't say temporary, with temporary with paint and jersey barriers and sticks. Not long term, we'd like to, when we redesign or reconstruct that bridge, and Locust as well, do a more significant, more permanent pavement change where you'd have a raised bike lane rather than just a plastic stick jersey barrier bike lane. And I'm very aware of the fact, because I ride it all the time, that bike lane sort of right around this project kind of disappears, and the cars are forced to mix into traffic. And this is on the list. It's an area that I've this stretch of North Avenue, Van Buren was probably my biggest priority for traffic calming, but this stretch of North Avenue from Humboldt to the lake is really my highest priority for permanent, either temporary in the short term and permanent long-term pedestrian crossing improvements. So I don't know, James, if you want to talk a little bit. I know there was already some discussion between the development team and James and Mike at DPW about the long-term plans for North Avenue and how that will work with their driveway entrances, for instance.
Sorry, I missed the beginning part of the question. Is that about traffic?
The question was about pedestrian safety and bump outs or other street design changes to help slow traffic and make it easier for pedestrians to get across north near Commerce.
Yeah, so we are looking at this area because obviously this development is going to bring increased pedestrian traffic. That's the goal, especially being so close to the Oakland Avenue area. We don't have anything that's permanently finalized, but as the Alderman was saying, it is an area that we're looking at. It's just that nothing's finalized quite yet, so we don't want to make any promises. We are planning on doing something to actually have something to make pedestrians and bicyclists feel more safe. As the Alderman was saying, it kind of trails off westbound as you're heading towards the development. So we're definitely looking at what we can do in that area to make it appear more safe. It's just that nothing is finalized and on paper right now.
On that topic, Dave Loken says yes, bump outs, endorsing any and all bump outs. Linda Elmer wants to know how many residents will this add?
Well, if you look at kind of, bedroom count, there's 91 units, and then there's, a smattering of 2s and 3s. So what could be 120, 150 residents?
Montavious Jones says great project, full steam ahead. Adrian Wade has a hand raised.
There we go.
Adrian, there we go.
All right, there you go. So yes, I'm looking forward to this project, but my yes is kind of tentative about a couple of things. Now, I'll say that I don't know anything about how these things come about, but I would just like to know if in the process of building and constructing this and the maintaining of it and the sustainability of it, that there's an effort to include minority-owned subcontractors and contractors and things like that.
Marie, so maybe we should start with Maria and then get to the development team, because Maria, there will be some conditions as part of the TIF, correct?
Sure. Yeah, Alderman Kovac earlier mentioned that one of the entitlements or approvals for this project will be tax incremental financing to help cover part of the gap for it. And so one of the city requirements for that is on the workforce side. 25% of the contractors are going to have to be small business enterprise contractors. And then in terms of the actual worker hours on the project, on the construction side, 40% of those have to fall under the resident preference program. So that's work performed by unemployed and underemployed city residents. So there, I think on Sig's last slide, it talked about the construction impacts, the size of the project. So while it's a housing project, at the end of the day, to your point, one of the benefits of it certainly will be leveraging that investment for both job and contracting opportunities for local businesses and residents.
Okay, and then my second concern, so
hold on. You want to let? Can we let? Why don't we have the developer finish answering your first question, then we'll get to your second one, if that's okay.
Yeah, and I can chime in with that as well. And thanks for that question. So, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please, Anthony. Let's say it.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I can chime in with that. So I also have a background in construction science and management, and worked as a project manager for 8 years before getting into real estate. So over the past 8 years, I done grew a network of subcontractors that are minorities, whether they're plumbers, HVAC specialists, electricians, fitters, carpenters. So it's definitely been our intention since day one to make sure that we include as many minorities as possible to build the small business contractors here in the city of Milwaukee. So I definitely appreciate that question. And we're very intentional, even without any conditions from the city. That was our intent since day one when General Kaplan and I discussed this development concept. So we definitely thank you for that question.
Okay, thank you. That's what I actually wanted to hear. I wasn't sure if I heard it because I missed it at the beginning of the meeting. The second, does this coincide with the new construction for Humboldt from North Avenue to, I think it was like Keefe or?
To Keefe, yeah. It goes all the way to Keefe, yeah.
So when, I forget when that is scheduled to start too.
That'll start in spring. Well, for right now, we're doing all the laterals because not every time we replace a road now, we replace the lead laterals. So we spent all year this year and more than a calendar year, we're finishing that project still. And then we'll go immediately into, if you thought that was disruptive on bolts, when we actually reconstruct the road, that will be even more disruptive.
Right. I'm seeing it now. I'm just wondering, there's going to be a point in which all of Humboldt from North Avenue to Keefe and now Humboldt East to I mean, am I gonna get off the east side?
Well, I don't think, I mean, I'll let the developers speak for their own staging, but given that they're on a corner and how big the site is, I don't expect you'll be blocking any traffic as part of your construction. Or why don't you describe your anticipated construction staging?
Yeah, I mean, basically we'd stage on site. There is enough room to do staging right on site, but I mean, there may be deliveries and things like precast that, you occasionally have some frame closures. Nothing that would be hugely disruptive.
Yeah, they're not planning on blocking the street other than there might be some big trucks on the street as, dropping stuff off.
Well, thank you. That answers my concerns. I'm very enthusiastic about this project.
Thank you. Amber Hagan says she thinks it's a good plan. The lot needs something. It would be nice to see the area improved. I like the Riverwest kitchen aspect. It would be a great resource for the community. Moira Fitzgerald says, great looking building. Do hope the food incubator will be more creative than simply linking into farmers markets. I know you've already discussed it, but do you want to comment on that specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the intent isn't to have this kind of like a food drop zone or farmers market, anything like that. The idea is, frankly, the more neighborhood involvement there is, and the more people get involved, the more interesting and dynamic the space will be. We're going to plant the seeds out there. We're reaching out to nonprofits, but we also really want to hear from the neighborhood to understand what's needed. And that's really, I think, the best way to do this. No pun intended, but it's do it organically.
Question here from Joey Wisniewski of the East Side Bid. He says, as a nearby resident, I support the project. Well done to the team. I sincerely hope traffic calming measures are a condition of design approval for the intersection of North and Commerce. And I think, Joy, when you say design approval, do you mean for when DPW redesigns its road, or I don't know if you mean for this project? I think the developer would like to see us make pedestrian improvements to that intersection, and I think it may even happen concurrently. I mean, their project is going to start, if approved, it would start this summer, and I assume take a while, right? When would you think it'd be done?
Basically a year, 13 months.
Yeah. So I would agree that in that time, I would hope, and James and Don are listening, but I've expressed this privately to DPW. I'd hope we'd have something on North Avenue to make those improvements to coincide with this building, even if they're just to start, sticks and paint, but eventually, a paving project, a reconstruction, hopefully. And I know I've talked to Joey and other members of the East Side Bid about both of those options for that stretch of North Avenue east of the river. So I think we're hoping to do some significant pedestrian improvements for this whole stretch of North Avenue from the water tower to Humboldt. And hopefully we'll get it all coordinated and done in a timely manner. Are there other questions or hands raised?
I do not see any other questions, nor do I see any hands raised.
Well, then we'll do the poll now. If questions occur to you after the poll, we can do it then, but I think it's always good to do the poll before everybody leaves. So Amanda, do you want to fire that up?
Yes, it's up now.
And we'll give everybody a half a minute or a minute to answer here. And I guess while you're answering, I'll repeat what I said before. I mean, it's pretty obvious what it means. It's self-explanatory. Yes means you love everything about it. Let's go ahead. No means no way. Start over. Maybe would mean you still have some concerns, and you want. And then if you vote, maybe I will ask you to explain what those further conditions are that you would want.
We have 85% voted.
Well, that's pretty good for this
minute now.
Pretty good voter turnout.
Should I close the poll?
I think so. Last warning, we'll give you everybody 5 more seconds, but I assume the 15% may have walked away from their computer. I doubt they're still thinking if they.
That is true.
Okay. I always wonder where people who don't vote, where they actually are on election day. Okay, so did you share this with everyone or should I read it off? Can everyone see it? The results are 87%.
Everyone should be able to see it. This is on the screen.
87% yes, 9% no, and 4% maybe. I'm guessing, given the raw numbers, that probably means 2 no votes and 1 maybe vote. I'll ask all 3 of those people, if you don't have to, obviously, but if you did vote either no or maybe, do you want to raise your hands and give us some guidance going forward as we continue the review of this project? If you don't want to say it now, you can email me at nkovac@milwaukee.gov what you would like me to push the development team or Department of Public Works team on going forward as part of this project. Are there any hands raised, Amanda? I don't think.
There are not any hands raised. We do have a question from Michael Adatoro. Is great project, love the design and happy for Anthony and team. Site has been an eyesore for too long. Any thoughts about possible partnerships with UWM and the dorms being right there, classes, etc., to foster more community?
Just generically speaking, I'll say that the idea is the more relationships we can foster, the more things we can include in our community spaces and that kitchen area, the better. So I would say that all those students that are living over there would be more than welcome to participate in our programming, and we can that's the kind of stuff that makes this all more interesting. So I think the answer is for sure.
And then John Carroll has his hand raised. John, I'm going to unmute your microphone right now. So you might need to hit the microphone icon as well in order to speak.
Okay, good. I have no problems with the project as such. I just do worry. I live very close to there. I try to go across that intersection friction or the walk there on Commerce all the time. I ride my bike on North Avenue to go up Humboldt, and the parking looks good, looks adequate, but I worry about the flow of automobile, pedestrian, and bike traffic there, and I would like to see the city really dig into that and anticipate the problems. It's going to where people go into the parking from North Avenue is going to be very close to the intersection of Humboldt and North, Corey cars are going into the right lane there, and that's the only thing I'm concerned about.
Yeah. Well, Mike, like I said before, I will push to get those improvements for the pedestrian experience and the bike experience near this building. As for that, it did come up in our discussions with the development team and DPW. Most of their cars are going to go to the underground parking. That's the bulk of their parking. So that can have in, out in both directions because it's a 4-way intersection with Commerce there. But that driveway to the surface parking, because of the median there, and also because it would be crazy to allow it given how much traffic there is going into Humboldt, it's only right in and right out. So that will be, I guess, a bit of an inconvenience for the people using that entry, that you can't go eastbound, and you can't, you have to kind of loop around to get there. But given how close that is to the intersection, it wouldn't be safe to allow, or I don't know what, it would muck everything up traffic wise. I mean, some people would argue it would make it more safe because if everything's confusing, it slows everybody down, right? But it would definitely cause a lot of potential conflicts if left turns were allowed that close to Humboldt.
And Alderman Kovac, I was going to say something similar. The more confusing it is, the slower people go. I mean, right now, having a vacant lot at our property, and then pretty much the parking deck to the health center next to Pick and Save and everything, right? There's nothing there that's going to slow people down. The more activity you have on the street, it'll at least people have to take a second to think. So that'd help, but I definitely agree with the alderman if further calming efforts would be very helpful here, because I ride my bike up that hill enough times to know that it needs it to.
Anyone else? Oh,
No, I'm not seeing any questions nor any hands raised right now.
okay, well, thank you, everyone. Oh, Mark, you have your hand up? Oh, you're waving. Oh, you're waving goodbye. Okay. He had his actual hand up, virtual hand. Well, thank you, everyone, for your time. You can call my office at 414-286-3765 or email me at nkovac@milwaukee.gov if you have further questions or you want to express further opinions, or tell your neighbors to let me know, or if anyone's watching this on delay, please feel free to weigh in that way, letting my office know what you think of the plan. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.